What's up, and welcome to a very special episode of First Geek 411 with me as we discuss all of the witchy ways. From West Coast, Best Coast is Emma. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing good today. How are you?
I'm doing good. I guess I should say my name is Cameron. I feel like intros, there's like a 50-50 on if I remember to say my name. But
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I'm doing good. Like, we had some storms today, but overall, it seems that things weren't too bad, at least where we are. And so we'll take the rain, all that kind of jazz. All those
Yep.
old person sayings. Um,
We really needed this rain.
exactly. The
Everyone
flowers
says
really needed
whenever it
this.
rains.
Yeah. Um, yeah. This week, we are going to be chatting about our Agatha All Along Spoilercast. I made this call out when we had our recent TTRPG episode. I am going to try to go back in and tag the specific questions in the show notes with when we have those questions. Will that happen? Who knows? But that's like the intent. Because as I said in that one, I'm trying to be better about actually going back and tagging things after we trim the episodes get trimmed and all of that kind of stuff. So
Yep.
that's the goal. Hopefully we'll have some more. But before we do that, of course, we got to catch up on what we've been up to. And before we get to that, I had to let people know where they can find us. You can find us as OneGeek411 around the internet. Join our Discord server. Shoot us an email at 1stgeek411@gmail.com. Watch live on Twitch and YouTube Monday nights around 6:45 Mountain Time. You can also find all of the VODs over on YouTube. And then, of course, check out that Redbubble store for that merch. All that out of the way, Emma, what have you been up to this past week?
Hobbied two of the hobbies this week. It was lots of fun. Played some video games. Specifically, the Horizon Zero Dawn remaster came out last week. So this weekend, I started yet another game of Horizon Zero Dawn with the remaster. And I am having a great time with it, as expected. This save file, I decided to play on hard mode, and I am not being challenged very much so far, and I'm like at least 6 hours into the game. So I'm just kind of laughing because like all of the times I've died in game have been either from stupid, like, oh, I just fell off a cliff, or this is a section I've always had trouble with, no matter the difficulty.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just like, I beat a cauldron battle on the first try in hard mode, which I was like, I texted a friend of mine beforehand, and I was like, I'm gonna get my rear end handed to me in this, and I'm ready for it. And then I beat it on the first go, and I'm like, oh, that wasn't as hard as I thought it was gonna be. They need to up the hard mode. So maybe I am gonna get challenged later down the road, but maybe not. We'll see.
Yeah,
We
talked about this a little bit in the Discord. I'm kind of curious to how this is going to go for you because I feel like Horizon, and this is kind of an open world thing. We'll like use Horizon as the example just because it's the one you're playing. But like, I feel like Horizon especially is very, like, has a lot of difficulty jumps,
Yeah.
and it's like the first time you fight a Thunderjaw, like
Yeah.
they feel so insurmountable. Then
Yep.
like the third time you fight one, you're like sliding under them, like hitting them
Yeah,
with
you're
their
like,
disc launcher, like or
okay,
doing all of
I
this
understand
stuff.
this thing now.
Yeah, and like that was
Yeah.
even me in like Zero or in Forbidden West. Like the first time you fight a Thunderjaw in that game, it's also very challenging.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually you just get to the point where it's like, oh, this is a joke.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah. You hit a point where you understand the game very well, and it's like second nature. So things are just like, okay, maybe I take a little bit more damage during a fight than on normal mode or whatever. But whatever. So I'm enjoying it either way, and having a great time as always. And I texted a friend of mine. So for people who don't know, the Cantrip Candles D&D campaign that I play in, my character in that is based off of Aloy. So going back and replaying Horizon Zero Dawn again, like she just like suddenly means so much more to me as a character
I
now
love
that I
that.
also have a D&D character inspired by her. So I'm like, oh, I can see where they're still the same. I can see where these two characters have like diverged from each other, and it's so great and it's fabulous, and I'm having such a good time with it. Um, and yeah, and then today, Concerned Ape released the 1.6 update of Stardew Valley for consoles. So I got that added onto my Switch, so I can get back into playing the big update. Because I sort of trailed off when it was just on my computer because it was just too much of a hassle to set my computer up to play Stardew Valley. But yeah, I'm getting back into Stardew Valley again to just chill and play all the fun updates. So
Yeah,
that's
I'm
gonna
really
be my.
curious. Go ahead, sorry.
Go ahead. Oh, it's just like I'm just excited to get back into it again.
I'm curious to what you're gonna think because, like, as someone who has not played Stardew, like, I don't really play cozy games. Um, I'm like, I've heard that this update is like crazy in like a good way of like
Yes.
adding a bunch of stuff that people are really excited about. So I'm excited
Yeah.
to hear your air quotes review once you
Yeah.
have some time to get into that new content and see what it's all
Having
about.
already seen some of the new content because I played it on laptop, it's a lot of fun. I just haven't like finished the game with the update or gotten very far. And it's a lot of fun. It's great additions and definitely like it's one of those updates that a lot of major studios would have charged like
Yeah.
a $10 fee for or whatever. But Concerned Ape was like, nah, man. I mean, if you already have the game, you just get the update for free. Like, and we love him for that.
Yeah.
Um,
In chat, Locke says there's never a bad time to start getting into cozy games. I feel like my
exactly.
issue with cozy games is they tend to be games that I start when I am like on a trip or when I am doing something, and
Yeah.
then I just don't stick around with it. Like it's
Yeah.
hard for me to just like have that like I was playing Bear and Breakfast recently, and I know we're
Yep.
like now I'm tangenting us to cozy games, but like I was playing Bear and Breakfast recently, and I just got to the point where I was like, oh, I could set up another bed and breakfast in this area. I'm okay, and I just like
Yeah.
uninstalled the game.
Yeah.
And like I was playing Fae Farm on Switch on one of my previous trips. I probably put like 10, 15 hours into it just between like travel times and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
I have not touched it since then.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
just like, I liked it, played a good chunk, but just
Yeah.
like,
I love cozy games for like when I want to sit down and like watch TV and play a video game at the same time.
mm-hmm.
As someone who's very ADHD brained and like likes to do two things at once. Cozy games are perfect for that activity of like, okay, I want to watch the show, but I also want to do something while I'm watching it because they don't require as much focus as something like Horizon or The Last of Us or something where you're constantly fighting monsters and
Mm-hmm.
and like actually need to focus. Um, so that's like the majority of the time when I'm playing a cozy game, it's when I'm also watching something. Um, so that's like the biggest reason I've ever logged any insane amount of numbers in a cozy game is when I've discovered it's perfect for watching TV.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, the last thing I did this week was it was Halloween on Thursday, and I went into Cantrip Candles to watch their Thursday game, but the Thursday game had gotten canceled because the GM was sick. So they decided that they were still going to hang out because it was Halloween. Why not? Um, and just run a PvP game just randomly. And it's the campaign that I do not play in. But I showed up. I was there. I was like, "Hey, I'm here to watch your game," and they're like, "It's not happening. Do you want to join our PvP game?" And so I ended up joining a bunch of level 10 players in a player versus player just standoff, and it was like 5 against 5 essentially, and I ended up being one of the last players at level 6. I was the only level 6. I ended up being one of the last people standing on my team very unexpectedly, and I was so proud of myself, and it was a lot of
Nice.
fun. And it was just like game is canceled because we're just gonna like run our own non-canon little training session. And it was a lot of fun, and I would absolutely do it again just for the heck of it. And I had a blast for my Halloween plans that shifted slightly, but were still a great time. So that was my week.
Nice. What did you think of PvP? I have never done like actual PvP in a TTRPG like that.
It was a lot of fun. I mean, it was very like, because it was non-canon, there wasn't really a lot of like RP or anything, and it was like not planned at all. And we didn't have an official like any one person like overseeing it, because at least 4 of the people in the room were TMs, and they're all just like, oh, we'll wing it, like we're not going to have any one person overseeing everything. So it was really just like, we're going to divide into 2 teams, ready, set, go, pick a person and hit them.
Nice.
And so for the sake of that, it was a lot of fun, because you were going after a character essentially that was run by another human being. I mean, it's always the case in D&D, but like it's a character that has, you know, their own history, and whoever the player is has been playing that character for, you know, 2 years at this point. So it was a lot of fun for just like a chill, we're just here to hit things, and like your goal is to knock down this person, like kind of like wrestling rules where you knock them out, and if they're like knocked down to 0, then they're not dead, they're just like out of the fight. It was a lot of fun for just like a chill, almost like a filler episode, if you will, of just like, we're still playing D&D technically because we're following, you know, the 5e rules, but it's like it's just a fun filler, like no one's ever going to talk about this again, but we're just entertaining ourselves. So it's a great way to, if you know you're not, your whole table can make it, or the DM's sick, like this was a scenario, or whatever, where you can't continue your campaign. It is a fun way to just fill the time for the people who can make it, to like still be able to play the game but not continue forward with the campaign. And definitely for certain campaigns, I feel like you can work that kind of session in to where those people earn, like they're improving their skills a little bit, or earn a little bit of extra XP or whatever, or just have it be non-canon. And it's just like, we joked that night that like Saphira, my character, was just having a really weird dream because like she didn't know any of the people in this, you know, courtyard that looked exactly like the house that she lives in, but like she doesn't recognize any of the people. So she just had a really weird dream where she fought a bunch of people in the courtyard of her house. So
I do love this idea that for your character, it's like, violence? Okay. Like,
she's a fighter.
Like, I don't know why
they
they're fighting.
Showed up and suddenly everyone was hitting each other. And she was like,
okay.
I guess we're all just hitting each other now.
That's great. You mentioned the idea of like rewards. Something that I think is cool, this is part of the X-Men expansion for Marvel Multiverse, is there's the idea of like, you can like chop up a rank up into the 10 components of ranking up, and have it be that like, hey, when you complete the session, you gain 1 ability point.
Yeah.
And like stuff like that. And I think that that's a really fun way to, like, I would like to see more of that in like more traditional TTRPGs, because that's a fun, like that's how actual progression works. Like you don't suddenly get more powerful. You train and you get better.
Especially with campaigns where you foresee like, you know, a possibility where not everyone's able to make it on a super frequent basis. You can sort of set it up to where you have these, you know, a session once a month that you know, is actual story session, and then another session that month that's like, hey, whoever can make it, like it's a training episode. It's a beach episode.
Exactly.
Like, and you get, you know, this half a progression towards the next level.
Yeah. Over on my end, two big things for me. The first, I've been working my Marvel Multiverse campaign, and so trying to like map that out. Shout out, I was showing Emma before we started, been working through the Goblin Notebook that I think we talked about in post-show chat 2 weeks ago. And so I've been using that. It's very cool, very excited about it. And then I still need to create the Discord for the people, but we'll get there. And then the other big thing I've been up to is Dragon Age The Veilguard. Been streaming that over on Cameron plus Deanna. And having a lot of fun. We're about 4.5 hours in or something like that. 4 hours in. And so been really having a lot of fun. Very cool game so far. I am kind of just out of the intro, if that makes sense. And so I've got to the first place where like I have like a fork in the road of like which path do I want to go and stuff like that. So I'm very excited to see where this leads. And so those are the two big things for me. Watching shows, keeping up with stuff, but for the sake of big things, those are the two biggest ones for me. So all that said, listeners, let us know what you've been up to, either in the live chats on Twitch or YouTube or in the comment section later on YouTube. Happy to hear what you have been up to. And also, let us know what you think of our main topic tonight, which is our Agatha All Along Spoilercast. And so, as part of every spoiler cast we do, there's going to be spoilers. All of those things. Also, pretty much anything Marvel is fair game spoiler-wise. And so, since this is the most recent release, pretty much everything released up until this point is fair game. And
I agree to the terms and conditions.
Yes. Just don't want people to be like, whoa, they spoiled Deadpool and Wolverine or whatever.
Wow, and shocker.
So, I don't know if I doubt
like
we're going there.
That's what a spoiler cast is.
Yeah. And so there will also, I'm sure, be some tangential spoilers for things like Marvel Comics, maybe some Marvel video games, stuff like that. I say video games in specific because there's a thing I have from one of the video games that's going to tie in with a question. But
fabulous. 10 out of 10.
Just kind of be aware of the vibes. And if you have not watched the show and do not want to have spoilers, please mute this video, go and watch Agatha All Along, and then come back, rewatch it with the audio unmuted. And so we'd really appreciate.
It's very important that you watch it with the audio off, so that we get the extra views.
Exactly. And so, now with that said, we do have some questions that we're going to go through. If you're in chat, please hit us up with your questions, and we're going to just kind of go and talk about the series. And so, high level, Emma, what did you think of the series? How does it stack up against other Disney Plus Marvel shows for you?
Loved it. It was great. Between this, WandaVision, and Deadpool and Wolverine, my faith in Marvel is slowly being restored to what it was at Avengers Endgame, because I love Marvel, but a lot of stuff after Endgame was very disappointing. Looking at you, Eternals. Not sure what that was. We're not talking about the giant head in the ocean. Anyway,
no one's talking about the giant head in the ocean.
No one's talked about it since then. It was fabulous, and I am obsessed, and I'm going to be rewatching it sometime soon because it is just so delightful and so perfect and the best kind of fun spooky that anyone could ask for.
Yeah, I very much agree. I mean, I'm an enjoyer. Like, the nice pool jokes from Deadpool and Wolverine, like, are very targeted at me of, like, I enjoy things. Like, if I don't enjoy something, I just stop consuming that media.
Yep.
And so, yeah, I mean, like, I feel like shocker, I enjoyed this. And I say that with, like, WandaVision also being my favorite Disney Plus series. Like, wow, the show that's kind of like WandaVision I also really liked.
Wow.
Like,
it's almost like there's a connection point there or something.
Yeah. and so yeah, I really enjoyed this series. I'm happy that we got to see return to this like neck of the MCU woods, and I am very very interested in kind of seeing what we're going to do with this set of characters, because I love the spooky, witchy, like sorcerer style MCU stuff. And so in chat, Locke says, how are we still not talking about the giant head? So theories, people think it's in the new Captain America trailer. We think we're going to finally get people talking about the giant head in the ocean. And so
what, like 4 years later, 5 years later?
Yeah, it's fine. And then like there's like a reference to it, I think, in like the side of one of the shows. But yeah, so that kind of again, so high level, those are all thoughts. Let's get into characters and plot, and I want to read the premise. This is from Wikipedia. But it's kind of the overview of the story. 3 years after being trapped under the magical spell in the town of Westview, New Jersey, at the end of the miniseries WandaVision, the witch Agatha Harkness escapes with the help of a goth teen who wishes to face the trials of the legendary Witch's Road. Without her powers, Agatha and the team form a new coven of witches to face the trials, while contending with some of Agatha's old enemies, such as the Salem Seven.
Dun, dun, dun.
So, what did you think of Kathryn Hahn's return and our titular character, Agatha Harkness, as well as Agatha kind of being the villain of this show? Like,
Kathryn Hahn is amazing, first of all. If there's one thing that Marvel has never failed to succeed on and do very well on, it's doing their casting right. We've seen that from the beginning, from 2008, with Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man, and up until now. They know how to cast their people correctly. And they know how to pick who's right for the character, who fits the character, and they're not just going for, oh, this person's a big name. Oh, that person is the current talk of the town or whatever. They're like, no, we also want someone who's like going to fully embody the character. And Kathryn Hahn, I love her. She's great. She's fabulous. And I'm obsessed. And second of all, Agatha, in my head, fully defined as a villain, but the kind of villain that everyone loves. Which I would like to clarify is a different category than Loki. Because Loki's a villain that's just misunderstood. And people love Loki because he's misunderstood. And very redeemable. Agatha, no, she's just a villain. Straight up. Like, there's very few redeeming qualities about Agatha. But that's what makes her a great villain. And people want to see more of that. Like, yes, we're gonna lure a bunch of witches into a fake thing that we made up so that we can steal all their powers. Great, and we're gonna keep doing that for years and years and years and years and years. Even when we're dead and as a ghost. And it's great.
Yeah. Going into this, one of my worries is that they were gonna try to make Agatha the good guy. And I'm really happy with how they now granted, it's not necessarily like we're seeing her interact with like a large number of characters here. And like even the Salem Seven are like only barely antagonists. Like they like basically exist to like provide a plot reason for the characters to have to move. Yeah. Like move through things. Like,
and even that, like, it works. It's a good vibe.
Yeah. And so I really liked that through all of this, even when we get some of like Agatha's like softer edges, like she's still not a good guy. Like she's not the hero. She is still like very selfishly. She's, at least for how we have seen her so far, she's also like not anti-hero either. Like she is.
She is fully a villain.
Yeah.
And the thing is, we as humans recognize that a full-on villain is going to have their very human moments.
Right.
Because every villain is still a human. And it's what they do with their human moments that defines them, yes, but they're still going to have them regardless of whether or not it shifts them to one side or the other. And
Yep.
that's what makes Agatha as a villain more believable, because we get to see her have her moments with Teen as like, and with her son in the last two episodes. Like, we get to witness her having these moments that are really what drive her to keep doing what she's doing. And it's like, yeah, that's what makes you the bad guy that we want to root for. We get why you're doing this thing. We don't always support it because it's questionable and bad, but we understand it because it's a very human response to your son dying and just you trying to survive.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think there's this concept, and this kind of builds off of what you just said. I think there's this concept that villains can only care about themselves, but villains are often like, they're just very like they pick their people. And
Yep.
I love this idea that we got for Agatha throughout this of like, who are her people and which of these people is she willing to sacrifice?
Yep.
And who is just here to like help her get ahead? Locke has a great call out in chat of Doctor Doom is a very similar in this of like, he very much cares about like Latveria, I think is the country that he is the ruler of, and like very much cares, but he will do he'll burn anything else to the ground if it means that he can protect his people. And so and I guess I should say for this also, Kathryn Hahn is the best. Like, I didn't actually say like what I thought about her. Like, so well played. I specifically liked the first episode where we get to see like she's living in this like police drama detective story, and like getting to see her acting as part of that. And then later on when we get that same event from Billy's side, and it is so like, it reminded me so much of Jim Carrey, where like everything is so like overacted in the best possible way.
The range is great.
I loved it so much. She did so well.
This is why I love Marvel.
Yeah, like as we would expect. Like, again, she's a fantastic actor. Like, it's not like we're blown away that she played this character well.
Not at all.
But like, she did such a good job, and I love getting to see those like the differences and the nuance in her acting and stuff like that. As we kind of again like go through that story of like, when is she telling the truth, when is she lying, stuff like that. And so I liked all of that. I'm hopeful that this leads to us getting more of this style of show. We did not like mention this, but the speculation right now is that this is the cheapest Disney Plus show that they have ever done.
It is. It's definitely on their cheaper end. It's if not the cheapest. And I'm really hoping that Marvel takes a cue from how successful this has been. And how much people have been raving about it, because it's not always the insane, graphics or insanely convoluted plot lines that people want. Granted, Marvel is known for their plot lines, and that's the audience, but like, this is a very contained plot line.
Right.
I'm just hoping that they take a lesson from it, and by they I mean like the higher ups, because that's the people who really need things drilled into their brains. The people on the production side the director, some of the producers, the writers, they all know. They get it. They're trying to vouch for you as the audience. As someone in film, they're trying to vouch for you, but it's all of the higher ups in the studios that need things drilled into their brains. Anyway, I'm hoping the higher ups are the ones that take the lesson, because this is great, and this is the way things should be done. You should prioritize the story and practicals. There's a lot of practicals in this show, and I'm obsessed with that.
And that was kind of the point that I was getting to, is like,
sorry,
no, yeah, you're good. Again, this is part of the reason that I love having you on the podcast.
Yeah,
I think
I love my field.
What, like, gets me excited about that, because I think what we've been told is Echo cost $40 million and this cost less than $40 million. I don't know if we've know any more than that, but like the thing, and again, kind of goes to the lesson that I hope people take from, like, executives take from this, is that the fans want stories with good characters.
Yes.
And actors who play those characters well. While stuff like gigantic CGI fights is really cool, like, the majority of fans, at least I think, would much rather have a very intimate story with the character that they care about, rather than having gigantic CGI battle. And that's one of the things that, like,
to see on occasion a cool CGI battle, but we want a reason to vote and root for the people in the giant CGI battle. That's why Avengers Endgame is so beloved, is because literally there was 15 years of storyline behind that one fight with Thanos, where people were like, there's so much history and context here that a lot of Marvel fans who went to see that movie knew, because they were, I was there for the majority of that. I came in right after the first Thor movie came out, so there were only 3 movies in at that point. People love Endgame because there's so much character development and character love that went into, making that happen. And people want to be given a reason to enjoy the CGI fight. Mm-hmm. And that reason is good characters.
Yeah. Speaking of characters, let's chat supporting cast and new characters. We had Joe Locke as our kind of co-lead, playing Billy Maximoff / William Kaplan. Deborah Jo Rupp as Sharon Davis. Aubrey Plaza as Rio Vidal / Death.
Yeah.
Shashir Zamata as Jennifer Kale. Ali Ahn as Alice Wu Gulliver. And then we had a handful of other people playing Salem 7, William's parents, and stuff like that. What did you think of our new characters? Did you have a favorite new character or just favorite side character as a whole?
A teenager. The answer would be teen / Billy, which I said because I definitely I started / got into Marvel as a teen. So the teenager answer is teen / Billy. The adult me answer is Rio, because Death is cool. Death isn't cool. Stay alive. I am going to reinvent. Your presence on this earth is valid, and we all appreciate you here. But Rio, the character, is cool and very sassy and fun vibes. But the real MVP is not a new character, but a returning character, and that's Mrs. Hart. I love the little old lady who just is out gardening and gets pulled into this randomly and unexpectedly, who's not even a witch. She's just the neighbor, the elderly neighbor who's gardening. So there's my 3 answers of new, returning, teen, Rio, and Mrs. Hart.
Yeah. I feel like my answer to this question is going to be the least surprising to long-term listeners. And wow, I loved Aubrey Plaza as Death.
Yeah.
We had a call out earlier in chat about the practical makeup that they did for her. It is
Yes.
so good, and I don't know if I have seen Aubrey Plaza this hard.
She
Like,
Aubrey Plaza so hard.
right.
And one of the cool things that I saw is she was very much against joining the Marvel Universe, but the only reason she did this was because Kathryn Hahn was a part of the project and she wanted to do it for Kathryn Hahn. Like, if it were anyone else in the role of Agatha, she would not have agreed to do it. Because there was a friendship there, which is really cool.
Yeah, and yeah, I love that. I love the that we got the Parks and Rec connections of like other members from the Parks and Rec cast coming to the premiere and stuff like that. And Aubrey did so well as Death / Rio, and I really liked this idea of bringing more of these like cosmic entities. Yep. And we get Death in this way that is just like really weird, like,
yeah,
and
just around.
Yeah, she just shows up when people are about to die, except when she doesn't, and she just like hangs out for a while, and then like she like is able to like cut through the fabric of reality. And just like,
and they were so chill about presenting that concept to the audience. They're just like, yeah, she's just zoop. That's
just
it.
Like cuts
in a wide shot. She's just zoop. You don't get any explanation, any details. She just walks through. Goodbye.
Yeah. And just like, just pieces out. And then you referenced the flashback episode as well. Like, it was very cool to see her as the like younger version of Death, and I think that was really fun as well. I'm hoping that we get to see more. I mean, because I love Aubrey Plaza. I'm hoping that we get to see more of her come into this, and get to see more of a look of like now that we've kind of gotten the smaller scale version of this character. I'm very curious to see what does it look like when she like goes ham and like now has to fight or something like that. Because like we see her fight Agatha in the second episode, but like that's not like a real fight, like in the sense of like Agatha's not powered up, but like I would love to see what Death can do. What happens, like the switcheroo of like you think you killed Death, but oh please, like honey. And and then I did like that. Like our final, like the kiss at the end of like Agatha giving herself over to Death and accepting that. And then I thought that was very cool. And part of the reason I like the idea of these cosmic entities is like they're not heroes or villains. They're just like forces of nature personified. And that's something that I think is really cool. Like, she's just like, is Death always human looking? Or like, if we were to go to a different planet, where like, does Death look different?
Would Death
there?
present as that dominant species?
Yeah, like,
get
out. Like, does it? Yeah, because it's like if a Skrull dies, do you get Aubrey Plaza in Skrull makeup, like as Death that comes to them? Like, these are the questions that I need answers to.
Yeah. We need all of the answers to this.
Yeah. And so I'm just like very curious to like what that is, what that's going to mean for the future. Locke says, I mean, in Guardians of the Galaxy, you see a lot of aliens that are mostly human looking. Yeah. I mean, like this is of course the balance of like, you don't want all CGI cast, but like how do you make like weird characters? Oh, it's like, I mean, it's like, there's like an entire species that's just humans with blue skin, like, because that's the easiest. So like
how uncanny valley do you want to get with this?
Exactly. So like going to the Guardians of the Galaxy example, if you go to like New Earth or whatever the planet was called, where everybody's an animal, like would you get Death as like one of those characters? And like would Death show up as a fox or as like something else? Like what would the vibe be there? Yeah, the Raven. Like what would the actual vibe of Death be in these other parts of the MCU? And man, I got to know the answers. And then you referenced Locke says, I bet it would be a possum. A+. Like that's a good choice.
Yep.
And so our co-lead, I guess you could say, is Teen, or Teenager if you want to use his full name. And so, played by Joe Locke, we get the air quotes return of Billy Maximoff, as well as playing this other role as William Kaplan. What did you think of Billy coming back? What did you think of Joe? And did you see the twist coming that he was going to be Wanda's son?
Yes, I did see that because I saw some theories online very early into the season that were like, oh, I bet it's one of the twins, one of Wanda's kids, Billy's, or whoever. And when I was watching with that in mind, I saw a lot of the little clues and indicators of like, yeah, I can see that. They did a very good job of like red herring, almost like bait and switch, with making you think that it's Agatha's son. But I did kind of see it like it would make sense knowing Wanda and having seen the capabilities that Wanda has and can do with her powers, or was able to, depending on your outlook on life. It wasn't super far-fetched to me that then her kids, however, imaginary they were, would have very similar powers. And ones that were strong enough to then provide them with some kind of ability to fling their souls out into the universe and attach them to another individual that was dying or what have you. But that doesn't mean that it was any less exciting when it happened. I was so excited because I was like, yes, I'm ready.
And that music stinger was so good.
Oh, it was great. It was fabulous. And I was so excited when the reveal happened. I was just like, yes, I'm ready for this. I'm ready for you to come into your own child. And the actor, what's the actor's name again?
Joe Locke.
Joe Locke. He did a great job in general in that role. Like he gets good kudos. I've never seen him in anything else. This was my first introduction to him as an actor, and he fits that role great. Casting solid. And it's just so fun to see these introductions of new characters into the universe and how they're new but not new. The faces are new, but some of the characters have been around for a little bit, which is really cool. And I'm excited to see where he goes.
Yep. For me, like, part of this was like all the theories around WandaVision and specifically around Doctor Strange as well. Like when we got the reveal of this series and we saw Teen, because I knew all of the theories from those, I was like, oh, this is very obviously Billy Maximoff.
Yeah.
And so I agree with you. I liked the bait and switch of like, could he be Wanda's son? Like, could this be Nick Scratch instead?
For much more casual viewers, it's like, like enough to get you thinking, but not enough to like reveal it. But for us who like pay close attention, it's like, oh, this is clearly Billy, but like it's fun to see how they handle it. It's fun to be in on the secret.
Yes. And kind of like going back to the previous question, it's kind of similar with Rio being Death. Of like, that was one that was like very much like the prominent theory going into it, is that the character named the River of Life would be Death. Like, and that was another one that like, it's so fun to see like the teases for that build up to it. And then for him being Wanda's son, I loved that we still get this idea of this character that like is very plugged into the idea of like witch culture, but like also still doesn't really understand his powers, doesn't understand like these spells. Again, kind of carrying on that like tradition of like Wanda is a good witch or a powerful witch because she's so powerful, not because she knows what she's doing.
Yep.
And I love that we still get that same vibe in a different way, but like I love that we get that like familial trait between them. And I really liked our flashback episode for William, like his bar mitzvah and like his eventual death. That that like was just played so well. Yeah. And like the lead in of him like dying in the car wreck and then like bouncing back and like with the Tommy. And then like dealing with this like who am I, as like he literally doesn't I believe we get confirmation that he does not remember being Billy, but he also does not remember being William.
Yeah.
And like he just like
just
legitimately
full
just
amnesia.
Yeah. And like that's super interesting. In chat, the reason I paused, Locke says, I read something today that we might have had a tease for Ghost Rider. Yes, we did have a Ghost Rider tease. I'll talk about that once we get to some future project stuff.
Okay.
And so remind me so I don't forget.
Great.
But yeah, I really liked this. I loved his costume. I loved the costume in this show as a whole. Again, see the comments about Aubrey as Death stuff, but like the costuming in this show was so good, and I really liked all the teases that he is very obviously like Wiccan, and like and until we get that final reveal, and his stuff looks so good. And yeah, but yeah, I was really happy with that as being brought in. And then next thing for you. So the overall premise is that the witches, as their coven, are traveling along the witches' road. And what did you think of the different eras of the witches' road, the different challenges and stuff like that? And then with that, what did you think about the twist that the road is fake? And that Billy is the one that like manifested the road into actual existence.
The eras and like stages are a lot of fun because it makes sense that like for this mythological thing that every witch seeks to travel for, big award, would have these like different things for the different subsects of witches or whatever. A lot of fun. Just like it's cool that like they instantly change outfits whenever they walk into the challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just all of this they're all tailored to a different character. So just a lot of fun in general. In terms of it being fake, I thought it was more cool and fascinating that the whole myth of it was just Agatha like luring people in to like then take their powers, because again, we've seen what Wanda could do with her powers, so it makes sense that Billy would have powers that can do something pretty similar, if not the same or more, which being able to create the witch's road, like that's some pretty powerful magic, but given who his mother is, that would make sense that he would be able to do something like that. So I thought it was more cool and fascinating that the whole like part of the twist that I didn't really see coming was that it was Agatha who initially created the song with her son way back when, and then just sort of slowly spread it as a rumor to witches after her son's death to lure them in for her own evil gains. Because it was like, I do remember in the first episode when she when they sing the song and then afterwards it doesn't work, quote unquote, and she's like, "Oh, y'all are terrible witches. Is there even a single witch in this house?" I was like, that's a bit of an odd reaction.
Yeah, it was very strange.
In my head, I was
moment.
like, that's a strange way to respond to this thing not succeeding. But like I just like swept it to the back of my mind and didn't think about it again until closer to the end, where I was like, oh wait, she and her son created this. That actually makes so much sense. And like all of her responses to this thing actually working, and the things that she said along the way, like in response to this witch's road actually existing, I thought that was a lot more surprising and cool and like a great addition to all of it. Not that Billy creating it isn't cool, but it was very much like, yeah, that would make sense that he would have created it under the assumption and the fact that it didn't actually ever exist.
Yeah.
Because his mother is literally Wanda and the Scarlet Witch, and she held an entire town captive for however long. So that part, like, it's like, yeah, okay, like, cool, fun reveal. Great. Well, very cool. But let's talk about this thing over here where Agatha invented it to like lure people into a trap.
Specifically to murder people.
Specifically to murder people. Like, like, no wonder people were constantly saying that, like, very few have ever successfully survived the Witch's Road, because you're literally going up against Agatha.
Yeah, that Agatha is the only witch that is known to have survived.
Yeah,
it's like, because
aren't your little red flags going up?
Yeah, she always kills the coven. Yeah.
Yep.
I loved this twist. And in terms of eras, I loved the rock concert. Like, we knew that we were going to be getting, or like the, I guess, like 80s ballad, right, is the era. And I loved that we knew we were going to get that version of the Witch's Road song. And I just like loved that it's actually like the characters singing it in world as part of this challenge, because like, and again, when we find out that it's fake, like, it's such a perfect thing, because that's exactly what the teen would think is like what you're supposed to do. And it's like all of these challenges of like, this is what, like, so like the first challenge, it's poison. Witches use cauldrons to like, it's just, it's so like on the nose things. And it's like, why are they on the nose?
16, 17, 18 years old, and you're just like dealing with a bunch of witches. You don't even know that you have all of these preconceived notions about the scenario you're in that are going to then affect the scenario.
And I think that was super cool. Like, it's such a fun twist, and I got a call out in chat from Locke of like Coven True versus Coven 2. Of like, well, it is Coven 2 because like Agatha and Nick wrote the song together. They are the Coven 2. But this idea that like the song and the lyrics have morphed over the years to become this other thing, like, that's super fun. We got a comment from Deanna in chat, said, I saw a thing where she also stole everyone's powers, maybe to get the powers that could bring Nick back to life. So like, she specifically says she can't divine, she can't heal. Like, these are specific things that her power doesn't allow her to do. Like, and so she's trying to gain this other thing. And so like, I think that's a really fun twist of like, she can't confront the death of her son, and so like, how does she cope with it? By trying to like, A, not die, but like, but also B, try to steal enough power to actually be able to solve this. And so, and then shout out to Fitz in the YouTube chat, says, favorite Marvel show besides Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Nice throwback there. And so, yeah, so I really liked the road. And again, this was a twist I did not see coming. Like, I'm by no means like super versed in the comics, but like the Witch's Road is a thing in the comics. And so this was like so far off my radar that like it was a con from Agatha, like that she created over hundreds of years. And I really liked that. Like, it's such a fun take. And again, I liked this twist a lot, especially with the twists of like Teen being Billy and Rio being Death, not really being twists. Like, I'm glad that we still got this as our twist going into the final episode. Ooh, Locke calls out that Smalls was asking while they were watching if now that Billy conjured it, is it real? That's a really cool theory of like,
I
so
could imagine that being the case, that like
yeah, I
you
think
could
that would be
create
really
it
fun.
but not uncreate it. Just
Yeah,
close
so
it
now its
off for
power
a
like
time.
exists. Yeah.
Yeah. He's put it out into the universe, so now it just constantly exists.
Yeah. I really like that a lot. That's a cool theory. Yeah, I like that vibe. We've kind of talked around this throughout this. Did you have a favorite like specific scene or specific episode, and why?
I've kind of touched on this a little bit, but I love the whole section. I don't remember if it was the whole episode or whatever, of Agatha and her son. When we get that like throwback and shift of focus to when she actually loses her son, there's all of this talk about like how she walked the road with her son, and was that how she lost him, and like, you know, all of these things. And it really did show that like she was already on a questionably iffy route with her life when she was raising her kid, because she roped him into luring witches into her house for, you know, killing them. But it also did show that side, that human side of her that we've talked about, with her like loving her son so much, and like really having that thing that she loves and holds so dear to her. And it was just something so precious, and it was a different side of her that we haven't gotten to see, and how his death really drove her to up her iffy ante. So I think that was really one of my favorite moments, because it was, again, more character development for someone who is very clearly a bad guy, but makes them more of a human bad guy. So I think that ultimately was my favorite moment, or just like section, over any one specific episode, because this was like, yeah, I like the whole show. I can't pick a favorite episode, but that moment is just like, I love it. It's great. It's cute. It's makes her more of a human being.
Yeah. And something that we haven't talked about is all of the episode titles for this are named after lyrics from the ballad, which is super fun.
Love it when shows do things like that.
Yeah. And so what you're referencing, it was the beginning of episode 9, which is the episode Maiden Mother Crone. Yeah. And so, again, super cool. Like, that was great. This one, again, I feel like is a super mid take. But I love the Death's Hand in Mine episode.
Yeah.
Where we get where we get the official reveal of death, but this is also where we get Patti LuPone's I missed her when we were talking about the cast earlier, but this is like Patty's trial. So this is the divination one with tarot, and we get the idea of like the swords are falling out of the ceiling and stabbing, like they'll kill you if you do the wrong like interpretation. And we get to finally see a lot of Lilia's like outbursts, like in context of her like living outside of time. Yep. That was super cool. And then like the way that like that she solves it in the end, where like it's actually not her reading somebody else, it's her reading her and putting her own life into context as this like final like grasp and understanding of who she is as this like older than Agatha witch. Yep. And so that was really cool. And then talking like practical sets, like we had seen a lot of the references to the tarot cards throughout the season, but like actually getting to see the characters as the tarot cards, like, and in the poses was like so cool.
And a lot of her like outfit, her like sweater had like the tarot card designs sewn into it, which is super cool.
Yeah. And then we get like Lilia's sacrifice of the tower reversed, which had been like a major like theme throughout. It kind of felt a little like Bad Wolf from Doctor Who, where we kept getting these references to the tower reversed. And we finally get to see it play out as she like uses the magic of the road to kill the Salem Seven.
Yep.
And then like in doing so sacrifices herself, and that idea of like time is a circle, not like a single event. And so it's like the I am falling, I will fall, I have fallen kind of thing.
Yep.
Was super cool as well. And then I also loved that for this one, all of the costumes were like witches from pop culture.
Yes.
And so like Teen is Maleficent, Agatha's the Wicked Witch. Like
you've got not Wanda, the Good Witch from The Wizard of Oz.
Glinda?
Yeah, right? Glinda. You've got both witches from Oz.
Yep. And then we had the Evil Queen rounding out our set. Yeah, I loved that. I thought it was super cool. And yeah. Next question. And so I went least favorite part of the series, but I also want to caveat this as like not necessarily least as in what did you dislike. This could also be least in terms of what do you wish they would have done. Is there something you would have changed? Is there questions you would have liked answered? Things like that.
I wish Mrs. Hart was around for longer.
Yeah.
I like really that's my only thing is like I said at the beginning, this show has really helped restore my faith in Marvel and their ability to tell a good story. Because really, even if I did think long and hard and came up with some questions I felt were unanswered, I'd be like, yeah, I feel like even if they were, if they were left unanswered, like, it's still a good story. I'm still content with those things, being unanswered. I just wanted to have witnessed Mrs. Hart, be there for at least a little bit longer because she was really the audience connection to experiencing the witch's road. We all know and acknowledge that she was very much not a witch, very much just a normal human being who just got pulled into this, and like having that kind of character is kind of like the joke every Olympics game needs one normal person involved. So
one amateur, like how are you going to do?
So that you can truly understand how insanely athletic these Olympians are. Mrs. Hart felt very much like that regular person connection point to me of like, she doesn't know what's going on. Like she's just there mumbling the words to the ballad. Yeah. Like
I loved it. Am I supposed to know this song?
Yeah, exactly. Like she is all of us, and I just wanted a little bit more of that to be like, you know what? You're actually asking the good questions that I would not have thought to ask because I am a Marvel fan who's just here having a good time. But like, you're there going, am I supposed to know the words to the song? And I'm like, oh yeah, we're not supposed to know anything either. We're just bopping along.
Yeah. What do you mean you haven't listened to this 8 times after the Comic-Con performance? Like,
yeah, exactly.
What are you doing, Mrs. Hart? Like,
yeah. So I just kind of wish that there was a little bit more of her in this show to be that amateur at the Olympic events. To be like, I don't know what's going on. I'm just a normal person.
Yeah.
But like, technically speaking, I understand that like it would have become too much to have her around. So like, but I still wish like maybe one more episode to have her be like, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Dude, I was just across the street gardening. and
Yeah,
Agatha
just
invited me to her
vibing.
weird party.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, I feel like this is kind of like me getting nitpicky, like as I feel like I do a lot sometimes with book club, where it's like, man, I
Yeah.
enjoyed this so much, but here's X, Y, Z. Um, um, and I both like and am saddened by the number of questions that we didn't get answers to. Like, there was so much buildup to, like, we got the Mephisto reference finally. We got we got these questions around, did Agatha trade Nick for the Darkhold? Like, and we kind of get some payoff there of like where like Rio asks like, why do you let them believe this lie? And she's like, the truth is harder. Like, the truth hurts more. Yeah. But like through all of that, we still don't know how Agatha got the Darkhold. Like, which again, I don't necessarily think we necessarily need the answer to, because I think the MCU having this book that corrupts whoever touches it is just a lazy plot device. Seem like our spoiler cast for Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, of like, that's like one of my biggest complaints about that movie is like the Darkhold as a presence is dumb. So like,
see, Agatha All Along, now existing as a show, really proves that Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness really, really, really should have leaned into the R-rated horror theme, because it would have done so well. It would have done so well. Mm-hmm. You're not happy with it, Cameron, but it's true.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, I don't disagree. Like, I mean, I believe I said in that spoiler cast that, like, I wish that they would have actually committed to it either being a horror movie or it being goofy wizards having fun. Like, yeah. I feel like they, like, very poorly walked that line. And where I feel like this, again, there's not any, like, necessarily real horror in this. There's some definitely creeps, but, like, there's no, like, real horror here. I feel like this did the promise of Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness much better.
Yeah.
Of
it absolutely
weird,
did.
Creepy witch stuff. Like, and I feel like my actual comment from the spoiler cast for Multiverse was they should have either done Multiverse or done Madness.
Yeah.
The fact that they tried to do both is the problem. Whereas this, I feel like they tried to do Madness and they did it. And
they did it. They did Witchy Madness. Yeah. Maybe this is the result of them taking a lesson from Multiverse of Madness and just focusing on one thing. Yeah. And if that's the case, it shows, and good job.
Yeah. And then again, kind of following up on that idea of like unanswered questions, like unanswered questions are cool. And I feel like it's part of the power of the MCU is that you can get these answers in 2 years in a completely different piece of media. And like, we can get those payoffs. I think that's like going back to our jokes from earlier about Eternals. That's why the head bothers people so much. It's not because we expected it to be followed up in the next movie, but it's because it has been years and no one has talked about it. Like, that's what bothers people.
Yeah. Because Marvel is known for playing the long game. The audience knows this. We know that Marvel plays the long game with things. But that the head is something they just clearly dropped altogether. It's not that they're playing the long game with it. If they were playing the long game with it, we would know. Yeah. They just kind of dropped it, and now because people are complaining, they're like, okay, fine, we'll like throw something in there about it.
Yeah. But yeah, so on that subject of questions, unanswered questions, like, this was a conversation that I was having with Locke over in his Discord. One of the things that really bothered me is the idea that like Billy is having this super emotional thing at the end of his trial with, am I killing this boy so that Tommy can live? And then like 30 minutes real time later, he's just like happy-go-lucky skipping out of the basement with Agatha's ghost. Like, like obviously you kind of need that whiplash to wrap it up, but like, that's another, like, that's a question that like should weigh on him. Like, and I really hope that that's something that we kind of get this payoff for, of like, because we get this refrain throughout the show of like, that's the price of being a witch, or like, like, don't run from your power is what saves you, like that kind of thing. And I'm really curious and really hopeful that we get answers to that traumatic experience later on. And the problem can be that like projects get canceled or go into like production hell or something like that. Look at Blade as an example, where like there were things from Eternals that were supposed to be in Blade, and then like, is that movie gonna happen, or is there only gonna be ever be one Blade? Who knows?
Who knows?
And so I really hope that we get answers to that question for Billy, as well as like getting answers to the questions for Agatha's end of how did she meet death? Like that was a thing that kind of shocked me. Like when we get the flashback in Maiden Mother Crone, like she calls death my love. Like they're clearly already
familiar with each other.
Yeah, like they're already close, and like presumably that is why death spares Nick, is because of her love for Agatha. But like, how did they meet? Like, what is in like nice? One of the theories going on as we saw like Agatha throughout the ages in some photos is that she could have been at all these events with death, because this is like, one was like the Hindenburg or whatever. And like, why is she at this event where a whole bunch of people died? Because death needed to be there for work. But like, we don't see anything. And with the end of that section of Maiden Mother Crone, where like death comes for Nick and takes him, it's kind of hard to imagine Agatha being buddy with Rio from that point on. Like, and it feels like the implication that we're supposed to take is that Agatha has not seen death since Nick, like, and she didn't even see him when Nick died, or see her when Nick died. But like those are the answers that like I hope we get in some sort of project down the line. Locke says, I mean, it's implied that Agatha was already doing a lot of murder before Nikki was born. But like, I want to see the Agatha and Death meet cute. Like what happened there? Like, because we know, or at least from like what the characters see, it's not like every time someone dies, everyone can see death coming for them. Like coming, it's like, it's the person who is dead has this like vision, and then like death has this ability to reveal herself to everybody else. Let's make that next year's Halloween special. Locke says in chat, let's go.
Let's
like, I would love a death focused Halloween special. Like that would be amazing. But yeah, and those, like I said, those are like nitpicky things. From a like structural thing, I wish the Salem 7 mattered, like, or were not there. Like, it feels like they were like literally a waste of space. And like I joked with at the beginning, like literally their thing is just to provide a ticking clock for the actors. Like, or for the characters. Like their job is literally to be like, don't hang around too long, we might get you. Unless you can run away on these brooms, like, then you'll outpace us.
What are you gonna do about it?
And yeah, so like, I wish the Salem 7 would have mattered more, because like their premise as like the daughters of the people that Agatha killed in her initial coven is a really cool idea. But like,
cool idea.
They literally just don't matter. Like, and that was upsetting to me. Not that I wanted a Salem 7 like flashback episode, but like, it's kind of weird that like they're presented as this important part of the story and then literally do nothing.
When we were getting the flashback of Agatha and her son, I thought we were getting a flashback to her with the Salem 7, like that whole thing happening. I still liked getting the flashback to her and her son, but like...
Yes. Yeah, not complaining about that, but like...
Yeah.
Okay, that is going to bring us to our final question for tonight. what are your hopes for Marvel from here? How would you like to see these characters and stories continue? I'll kick this one off because this kind of goes to the reference that we were talking about earlier with Ghost Rider. And that is Midnight Suns, let's go. Like, give us this like spooky supernatural set of characters. So Jennifer Kale is the cousin of multiple Ghost Riders.
Oh, I did see this.
Yeah, and so this is kind of the same thing.
I just didn't fully process it.
Yeah, of like Uncle Aaron appears in one of the MCU movies, which presumably means that Miles Morales exists in the MCU. And like, we haven't seen Miles, but like his family is there, so presumably so is he. Like, this is kind of that same idea that like if Jennifer is here, that means presumably Ghost Rider is here as well. And then we just because we did have that reference to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., who knows what Marvel's doing with that specific version, but like the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. version of Ghost Rider was super cool.
Yeah. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was just a very wild early test run into TV for Marvel. So.
Yep. And then, and Locke calls out, we did get in Across the Spider-Verse, we do get in costume Prowler at like Uncle Aaron. And so like, but again, is that the MCU? Like, we're getting that multiverse shenanigans, or is that just one where again, Prowler looks like that person?
Yeah.
But like, so yeah, I would love to see like us get Midnight Suns. I loved the video game, so like that's kind of my touch point with those stories. But like in that, like Agatha dies before the events of the game and is a ghost, and like is the spiritual caretaker of like the party. And like it's super cool, and like I loved that style. I would love to see us get like some more of the like magical witchy people come together for some sort of team up, like, and get to see them take on some sort of like Mephisto-esque threat or agent of Mephisto-esque threat, Dormammu maybe, like something kind of like on that style. Presumably with less CGI than Dormammu, but like I think that that's something that would be really cool. And then the other side of my hopes for these characters is Young Avengers, or as I've seen people joke around, younger Avengers at like the age of these actors. Like, but like we know that from the end of the Marvels that Kamala Khan is going around gathering up like younger heroes. And like now that we have Wiccan, and somewhere in this universe is Tommy, like somewhere
out there, like, adventurers out there in the form of finding Tommy.
Who knows where this person that Billy may or may not have killed is. But like that's the other thing that I really want. I've heard theories that we could get them. Vision Quest is coming up. And so I've heard that like there are some theories that we could see some of this in Vision Quest. And yeah, so I really hope that. I love the idea from Locke in chat that like, let's get like, it's weird that we had a Halloween special and a Christmas special in 1 year and then have not had any since then.
Yeah.
Like that's really strange. Again, projects get canceled, things get moved around, but like it's so weird to me that they were like, oh, we're going to be doing a lot of these. They're not going to be tied to the holidays. And then we just have never had one again. Like, okay, like I don't understand, but like, all sure.
Right, whatever floats your boat.
Yeah. Yeah. And Locke calls out super strange with how well Werewolf by Night was. Yeah. Like, and even the Guardians Christmas special was like, again, I feel like generally people were very positive on that as well.
Oh yeah, the Werewolf by Night, that was like very much a one and done. Like no one's really ever talked about that again.
Yeah.
Whereas the Guardians Christmas special was like, yeah, okay, like that kind of fits into previously existing Marvel stuff. Whereas the Werewolf by Night was just kind of like its own thing.
Yeah. and Guardians Christmas special actually gives us major plot beats.
Yeah.
Because it's where we get the reveal that Mantis and Peter are half siblings.
Yeah.
Like, and that it gets brought up in the in Guardians 3 as well, but like that's an important plot beat for like for that. Whereas Werewolf by Night has literally never been referenced before.
No.
But like
again?
Yeah. And yeah, I think it'd be really cool to see like the characters from Werewolf. They would fit in very well with Midnight Suns vibes and stuff like that. Yeah. And yeah, I think it'd be very cool to see us take that look. So on your end, what do you think? What would you like to see?
See all of the above, as you just mentioned. Because the majority of my Marvel Comics knowledge comes from the movies, admittedly. I've been wanting to change that for years, but just haven't been able to because I just finished grad school. Yay.
Proud of you.
I did it. My big thing, as I've talked about already so many times in this episode, and will continue to talk about, is I really hope they continue this upward trend of putting back in all of that love and care and good storytelling into their future projects with, Marvel stuff, because that's how I fell in love with Marvel way back as a 15 years old, whenever that was. Let's see, 2012. It was 2012. I was 18. No, that is incorrect. Whatever. Math is hard. 17. There we go. I was close. That's what I fell in love with. That's why I am now working in the film industry between Marvel and Doctor Who. Like, there's a reason I'm here. I just hope this seeming upward trend is actually an upward trend of carrying on that, passion for the material in whatever form it comes in, because it's truly why they have a fan base. And yeah, like, superhero fatigue is real and it is a thing, but that doesn't mean you can skimp out on the projects that you're investing so much time and money in.
Yeah. And superhero fatigue is only real if you're not giving us good stories.
Yeah.
Like,
the only reason it is real is because you're one of those balloons where you let all the air out, and it's just like
yeah, it's like, I mean, like,
we can look at the success
of, yeah, and yeah, exactly, like we see it with Deadpool and Wolverine on like the other end of like people,
there's no real solid storyline or anything, but it's like the most successful R-rated movie of all time.
It's a fun movie. Like, a movie
people
can
love
be
it.
fun. Yeah, and again, you can have cool characters that people care about. Now, granted, of course, like, that's built on the fact that people love Hugh Jackman for playing Wolverine for the past 20 years or whatever, but like, but
it's the reason because he's genuinely good at it, and he loves that character to death in the same way that Ryan Reynolds loves Deadpool to death. Yes.
Exactly. Like, and maybe, and like, another example is like Guardians 3. Like, Guardians 3 did very well, was very well received. And it was a great story, like, with great characters that we care about. Like,
the audience,
it's not just the CGI mess of Ant-Man Quantumania. Like,
the audience can tell when the creators behind the project are allowed to put their passion for that thing into the thing, and when they are not allowed to put their passion for the thing into the thing, and we respond accordingly.
Yep.
There's an adage in film: your audience is not as stupid as you think they are, and it's true.
Yep.
I could talk about this all
again,
day.
I hope, to your point, I definitely hope that we continue, like, to be on the upward swing here of, like, again, I'm an enjoyer of things. Like, there's definitely, like, a lot of stuff in the MCU that I have enjoyed, and I hope that we are on the swing of, I don't want to say quality returning, because I feel like that's a disservice to a lot of the projects that have come before. But like, I would love it for us to see a more like consistent quality when it comes to the storytelling and characters that we have for these.
Absolutely.
But with that, chat, comment section, let us know, what did you think of Agatha All Along? Come and discuss it with us, either over in the Discord or in that comment section. As a little bit of housekeeping before we wrap up and go to the post show, as a reminder for everyone who may have missed the announcement, we are doing Bell's Hell's What Doesn't Break by Cassandra Khaw on November 25th as our November book club. And so my copy came over the weekend, and so I'm very excited to start. I believe yours came as well over the weekend.
It's
and so
across the room, or else I would show it off.
So very excited to see what that is about. And then you can find us all over as OneGeek411. Join that Discord server. Shoot us an email at 1stgeek411@gmail.com. Check out Redbubble. Watch live on Twitch and YouTube, and then find the VODs over on YouTube. And then you can find us at our personal social media, minus Humar Whittle.
And as I am not prepared with an I am the prepared.
And it's been a great week.
Drink some tea.
Cast some spells.